loud noise, and you could things were rattling and shaking.
The weather was pretty horrific.
We heard this loud noise, and it blew the windows out in the back.
My neighbor's shed wound up in my backyard.
Total mess, yeah, devastation. It's scary too.
Louisville homes in pieces after a tornado tore through last night. The National Weather Service says at least an EF1 tornado hit here in Fern Creek.
No injuries have been reported, but as you can see, lots of damage was left behind there. And it was a similar scene out in Shelby County. Families woke up this morning to the trees being split, buildings were splintered. WDRB's Grace Haba is there live now. She's been with the National Weather Service crew all day. And Grace, I know they've been surveying the damage.
That's right. And guys, you just hit on the good piece of all of this, all of the madness last night. Nobody was injured. And that is what the National Weather Service says that they are very happy about this morning. Now, we are here in the 3000 block of Taylorsville Road. This is in Shelby County, not the one in Jefferson County. Want to make that very clear because I'm here with meteorologist John Gordon from the National Weather Service. And John, we've been with you throughout the day. This is about our 10th stop. Reason why I wanted to make sure people knew we were in Shelby County is because we were in Jefferson County earlier today. Tell us what you saw first off this morning off Fairmont Road.
My gosh, it's been a lot of damage. Started with straight line winds. Our office at the Weather Service had 72 mile per hour winds, and then got into Fairmont and the Glen Mary Reserves and Providence. We had an EF1 tornado of 97 miles an hour, and then that died in the eastern part of Glen Mary. And then we found today, we found a bunch of straight line wind damage in Shelby County, including this barn right here, this pole barn that was blown out last night, about 65 mile per hour winds.
And I wanted to ask you about this straight line wind damage. Like you said, that's what you're looking at right now behind us, guys. This was an old barn. When you come across a barn like this that was knocked over from straight line winds versus a tornado, how do you gauge the difference?
Great question. So look around here. There's no trees twisted or turned. We don't have any debris in any direction. So this is mainly going from the west to the east, and picked it up and lifted it and just knocked it straight down. If it was twisting like we saw earlier, we had cedar trees twisting, insulation going in three directions of a house, cars being picked up and twisted in different directions. This is pretty much a standard west to east thing.
And looking right behind us, there's a barn, but about 100 or so, or probably less than 100 or so yards away from us, guys, there's a house that looks like it was untouched. Looking at these two, is that pretty common to see in a storm like this?
Yes, there's been a few areas of real sporadic, strong, intense winds. We saw that on Bardstown Road where we had winds of 65 to 70. Literally dozens and dozens of pines and cedars and Bradford pears down. And then nothing until you get to something like this.
And when you look at these straight line winds, you said that the number one thing that people really need to be concerned about when it comes to strong winds like this is the flying debris. So whether we're talking straight line winds or a tornado, there's still a lot to keep in mind.
Absolutely, great point. And the Providence, my gosh, there were flying missiles. Mark will tell you that. Flying missiles, what kills people, flying debris. Years ago when I was young, they taught us to open the windows. Totally ridiculous. It is flying debris that kills people. Get low, listen to the warnings, pay attention, and you and your family will live another day.
John, thank you. And as John just mentioned, an area where we saw a lot of that debris was over in Fern Creek. That's where we actually are going to turn things now, where we find WDRB's Stefan Johnson, who is there on the ground watching as neighbors clean up. Stefan, what can you tell us about the cleanup efforts underway?
Hey there, Grace. It is a mess over here, and I just heard John Gordon mention that flying debris. Take a look behind me. So this is one of the houses that was hit. We're on Bohannon Station Road here in the Glen Mary neighborhood, and you mentioned that flying debris. Take a look at that. This is part of someone's home, and those nails sticking out. Photographer Jeff Gordon, as soon as we pulled up, he bent down on the ground and said there are nails everywhere, and neighbors say this stuff was flying through the air last night. And then just next door, what a mess. The top of the home is gone. These folks were at home when the tornado hit. I'm told that the neighbors went downstairs to their basement, and the homeowner said there was water coming in, and they thought that the roof was gone. We'll show you where it is in just a moment. But right now you have a lot of insurance adjusters here, a lot of debris everywhere, as you said. And then just across the street, let's walk across the street. That roof that we just showed you that was missing, well, it's across the street in a neighbor's home. all of this landed over here. It looks like the tornado was moving to the east of here. We're going to hear more about that in just a moment from Chief Meteorologist Mark Weinberg. But first, we're going to bring in Wes Beams with American Roofing. So Wes, you guys have been out here all day. You've been doing this for 30 plus years. How bad is this?
Well, the last time I've seen anything like this was in 1996 when a tornado hit Zolton and Mount Washington area. This is pretty bad. Throughout the whole area, it's pretty bad.
And so this roof across the street, obviously that home is in bad shape, but the house behind us, that looks like there's some shingles missing on the top. Is that roof going to have to be replaced as well?
Yes, that roof right there will have to be replaced, and from what I've seen here today, just about every roof back here is going to have to be replaced.
And one of the neighbors pointed you guys out and said you guys were just basically leaving your flyers and you weren't knocking on doors. And you told me something interesting about, you said in the next couple of days there are going to be people coming from out of town to these neighborhoods. What advice would you give people if they have damage to their homes?
Well, what I think you should do is I think you should go to the BBB and you should Google the company that's actually coming and knocking on your door and checking them out to make sure they're not out-of-towners, because there will be a lot of out-of-town roofers coming in over the next 24 to 48 hours.
All right, I know you've had a very busy day, Wes. Thanks so much for talking to us. We appreciate it. Again, we're still getting up-to-date information on what happened across the Kentuckiana area. Chief Meteorologist Mark Weinberg has the latest on what the National Weather Service is saying about last night's tornado.
You know, and Stefan,